So there are some staggers that you should never or almost never respect. So I want you to try to interrupt these types of staggers like 90% of the time. Let me show you. For example, so we have Natara. Let's start with her. She has a great example of a stagger that you don't want to respect. How do I switch this? Right. So she has, I think, one mid, right? Forward one. And then the completion is forward 1, 2. Mid overhead. So the reason why you should never respect Natara doing this as a stagger, or just even this and anything else, right? It doesn't matter what. Or even this, like anything. As soon as you see forward 1, you should try to hit her regardless of if you think the overhead is coming or not. Only if she's mixing, right? If your opponent is always doing this consistently, obviously, it doesn't make sense to try to interrupt something that they're not staggering, but it's when they start doing mind games on staggers. If they start mixing it, immediately you should be like, okay, it's time to start interrupting. And the reason why is because, take a look at this, alright? So let's say we whiff. Now, maybe there's a cameo out there that might launch you after this hit, I don't know. But as a general rule, this knocks you down, so it doesn't launch you. So if you guess wrong, you get 70 damage. And you have to understand that when you stagger, as the staggerer, you are risking your life every time. Here's why. Let me demonstrate this. So let's say that your opponent's doing this, or something along those lines, right? So this means that as soon as you see forward 1, you interrupt, and then you get a full combo punish, right? So if I guess wrong, here you go, I get 70 damage. Did you see how the cost reward is in your favor? Now Natara, what she could definitely do, let's see, she adjusts. She might be able to do something like this. She knows you're gonna press, bang, then she gets you. Now you're in actual trouble. You're in real trouble. But realize that this is only true if your opponent has bar, right? Because if they don't have bar, it's just a hit. If they don't have bar, always press if they're mixing it. And for like your opponent to do something like this, they're gonna have to be adjusting to your interruptions. So it's smart from time to time to just block and let them stagger. Rarely, that's why I said 90% of the time you want to push. From time to time, let them think that you're gonna block it, because you don't want to become so predictable that they can do something crazy on you like this. But regardless, like a very good and safe player would probably never do this. It's just too risky unless they can break. If Natara can break right here, yeah, do it. Like, take as much risk as you want when you can break, because breakers in this game are so good. You can break almost immediately. It resets neutral. You can't get punished. It's not like MK1. There are other types of characters where it's like 2 hits, where you can probably interrupt. You should not respect, but instead of 90% interruption, you should interrupt like 70% of the time. And that's, let's say I'm Kung Lao here. That's with a move that launches, actually. Like we show, like this one is a hard knockdown, right? But with Kung Lao, it's gonna launch. So if I can switch, if I have Kung Lao, right? If I do this, on block, this is negative. You're gonna get full combo punish. But on hit, it launches, right? So if you do something like that, it launches. If imagine someone like Natara tried to press, and then she's gonna get launched for a full combo punish. So when you fight against Kung Lao, you don't necessarily want to respect this stagger, right? If they do this, like, you don't want to respect back 2 most of the time, because keep in mind you might get launched without a bar too, so it becomes a little bit riskier than Natara. But for the most part, because back to 4, the 4 is negative, it's unsafe, you can guess that your opponent is not going to use it on block too often, unless they're trying to make a hard read on you, which is why you have to sometimes let them stagger a little bit, just to keep that thing in their head, but not always. Now let's look at other moves. So let's say we're gonna look at, let's actually look at Johnny Cage real quick. Johnny Cage is really good in this game, and he has a string I want to show you. This is all about cost reward. Like my whole philosophy about playing any sort of fighting game, especially Mortal Kombat, is cost reward. Like, you don't know what your opponent is going to do unless you make a hard read, which is still a guess. But even if you have no idea at all, if you press at the right time, where if you guess wrong, you get just a bit of damage, but if they guess wrong, if you guess right, they get a lot of damage, then that's a good trade-off. That's always what you want. So let's go with Johnny. So this whole string is dangerous because it's 3 hits and it's not a dial-in. So they can stagger at every string until the 3rd hit, right? They can actually, it's not even that, like, they can complete the 3rd hit with something else, although it's going to be unsafe. For the most part, unless they do something like like this, right? Anyways, so where do you push to maximize your cost reward? In this case, since there are 3 hits, you don't want to push at number 2 because your opponent can react to a 2-hit confirm. It takes 2 hits for a human being to be able to react, at least in this game, and convert into a full combo. So this means I want you to press on the last hit. This all assumes that the condition is that you're playing a player that is not insane. It's not going to do something like this on block, right? Most players are going to do this on block if they complete the string. That's all because it's safe. I'm going to do 2 things here. So sometimes Johnny completes a string, and then sometimes Johnny doesn't complete the string. Sometimes he just staggers the whole thing, right? Staggers, like, I mean the first part, like this. So here's where I want you to press. I want you to press on the 3rd hit, like this. 1, 2, then you press. That's where you press. Now I made him block, but in reality what could happen is something along those lines. Right? You don't stagger just to block after. That's not why you stagger. You stagger to continue your turn, to steal turns. And to bait people into letting go of block at the wrong time or pushing at the wrong time. So you would stagger to be like, oh yeah, right? I press because I'm like, oh yeah, he's staggering. I react late. But you don't react with anything here. You just press. As soon as you see the movement, 1, 2, I'm like, okay, I'm going to press. So you see what happens here? I call him out on his stagger, and I am giving him a full combo punish. And if I guess wrong, I call him out. Oh, see? I just get punched once, so it doesn't really matter. It's 50 damage. But if he guesses wrong, it's going to be way more than 50 damage. The only time where you shouldn't press at all is on 1 staggers like this, when there's a move that has 3 hits like that. Again, you want to press on the last hit. If it's 3 hits, you want to press on hit 3. Like I was showing you 1, 2, and then you press 3, right? Like this, 1, 2, you press. But not here. This is 1, and the reason why is because... So the reason why you don't want to try to interrupt Johnny when he's doing 4, 3, even if you kind of react, is because first of all, you might react a bit late. But it's also because if you do the hard call out, just like I mentioned, pressing just as soon as you want to press, this might happen. This is a 2-hit confirm, right? So what will actually happen is this. The best case scenario would be this. He reacts to 2 hits, it's like, okay, boom, I can hit you. This is not good. This is not what you want. This is why when I was showing you Kung Lao and Nitaro, they were 2 hits, and I was showing you the hit at the end, the last hit. No matter how long the string is, you want to hit at the last one. That's a general good rule of thumb. There are exceptions, right? I'll show you right now. The exception is if you get launched. Right, this is the 3rd hit. So usually, if Johnny only had this move, like this, is, the follow-up doesn't matter. So if he only had this, you would want to press on number 3. But the problem is that he can launch you. So if I'm pressing on the 2nd hit, I guess wrong, I'm launched. I'm fucked. That's not good at all. You don't want to take that risk. This is why Johnny, at least that string is very strong, because otherwise you would be pressing. If it's this, 2, 1, 4. 2, 1, 4. Oh well, it's a low. It doesn't really matter. You know, of course he can do the full completion, which he probably should if his standing 2, 1 doesn't hit, just to get more damage. But it's still not a lot of damage, and most people just hit right there at the number 4. They just do 2, 1, 4. They stop at 4 because it's a bit of a stagger, right? Anyways, the point of this video is that there are some staggers you want to respect, some staggers that you don't want to respect, and it all revolves around what if I guess wrong, how much damage am I going to take? So that's what has to go through your mind.